welcome into another episode of the Young Terps podcast. Ahmed Gafir and Mason Viner. Thanksgiving special episode. Terps heading up to Rutgers this weekend for, I guess, their new locked rival opponent, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And Ahmed will start off. Maryland basketball gets, I guess you could say, back on track. They scored more than 40 points, so
Yeah.
back on track against UMBC.
Yeah, obviously it was a chance to just kind of regain footing, get the to just get back on track, like you said, and obviously Maryland was able to do so last night. Pulled out a 92-68 win, scored 57 first half points, the most obviously under Kevin Willard in the first half, and the most since they beat Longwood in 2010. So I think definitely. When you look at the first four games versus the offensive output especially in the first half, just seeing kind of Maryland be able to score and find that offense, find some rhythm. I think that was good. And obviously, Jameer Young leading the way, 20 points, 4 steals in 29 minutes. 3 of those steals came within, I think, the first 4 or 5 minutes there, as Young was one of 4 Terps to finish in double figures.
Yeah, well, I love to compare Maryland football to Maryland basketball on this podcast. So I'll take another Mike Loxley line and apply it to Kevin Willer's squad. Whatever Loxley says, they started fast and they didn't really finish that strong, which I know that is what Lox loves to say, but they definitely started fast. They came out, uh, looked different, looked a lot more energized in the warm-ups. The place was absolutely empty in the pouring rain until, I mean, it filled in a little bit in the first half, but I mean, they were out there for warm-ups. The national anthem was playing, and I swear there must have been 3,000 or 4,000 people in the building. So they brought their own juice to the table. They definitely started fast, shot the ball a little bit better early, but definitely still some concerns with turnovers. The free throw shooting at this point is the number one for me, and then not great from the 3-point line, but you find a way to score 90. It's hard to complain about how many points you score.
Yeah, but I think, the 3-point shooting, like, I think those are just kind of the small things that you can still kind of take away from this game. Granted, I think kind of going into it, obviously UMBC gave Louisville a scare. I think the final score was 94-93 in the season opener at Louisville. But I think, a lot of fans kind of expected going into Tuesday night that, Maryland was clearly the better team. So it was kind of, again, just figuring out doing the right things and kind of being able to just pull out the win. But I felt like the 3-point shooting, that's still something that kind of transfers from game to game, regardless of the strength of your opponent. And I think obviously they almost finished 0 of 8 3-point shooting in the second half before Noah Batchelor. He knocked down a 3 in the final minute there. A little bit deep of a 3, but yeah, granted, the 3-point shooting is a little bit of a concern. Obviously, you look at a guy like Jamie Kaiser who. I mentioned this on the forum and Inside the Black and Gold, but I think the freshmen just kind of them getting comfortable, figuring out, how they play, how they fit in, both in Maryland's offense and playing off each other, playing with Jameer Young. But feels like Jamie Kaiser, he's a guy that he has that 3-point touch, but just, working on the shot selection, taking smart shots within the offense. I think that's kind of that next step. And then, you kind of hope that Maryland's able to maybe create a little bit more of that, maybe find the better shots for Kaiser to maybe improve the 3-point shooting there. But that and obviously, like you said, the giveaway, the lack of points at the free throw line is another head scratcher there.
Yeah, a couple things on the positive side. The floor spacing much better. I feel like that's what they lacked. I know Kevin Willard's talked about that. That's when things have really started to go poorly for this team offensively. Yeah, you can point to the shooting numbers as that, but the floor spacing has been poor when they're trying to get to the basket. That was a little bit improved, definitely improved throughout the game, as I felt like it was, don't quite want to call it a get right game without seeing what happens on Saturday. But it felt like, once they started to get some of the early steals, get some of the good energy going, they started just to play a little bit better as a team and do things, choose to do things the correct way. Julian Reese, another bright spot for me, and not the greatest stat line, but one of the things I noticed is, again, the aggression for him finishing towards the basket is something that when you really go over the games and look at where he's not scoring the basketball where he was at the end of last season, it's being aggressive and taking the ball to smaller guys. He sort of, I don't want to call it plays down to the competition, but plays down to the size of the competition. It doesn't necessarily take advantage all the time of how physical he can be inside and just how dominant and get the other big guy in foul trouble instead of finding himself in that situation. And overall, again, positive performance. You're not going to win Big Ten games come late season, missing 11 free throws. That's just not going to happen. And yeah, just minutes, small stretches, not even 4 minute stretches where the shot selection just deteriorates. The lineup combinations don't seem to fit together. So continue to cut down the lineup, figure out where this team's at. But got to get back on defense. You have to play hard. And there's a team coming in on Saturday that they're not the best, but they're going to look at film and figure out those little things that Maryland didn't do right and try and expose them now that there's an expectation that they can compete and win the game, given who the Terps have lost to this season.
Yeah, I think that's definitely valid. Two other things that kind of stuck out to me on Tuesday. Deshaun Harris Smith, I thought, just looked a lot more comfortable. Was able to find that success around the rim, and I know he was able to do so a little bit at times through the first 4 games. But it felt like he had some just struggles, going against Davidson, UAB at the rim, finishing through contact. So felt like that was an encouraging sign. And then also Matty Traore, who got a chance to play a little bit that second half as Willard, got a chance to kind of empty the bench a little bit with the game very much in hand the last 10 minutes or so. John Lamoth was also able to check in and play 13 minutes in the win as well. So I think, again, it'll be interesting to see kind of also how the rotation, how much maybe that trims these next 2 games as well. But I thought Deshaun Harris Smith, I thought that was the type of performance that they need for Maryland to be successful.
Yeah, Terps will take on South Alabama at home on Saturday night. And look, not too much tune-up time left for Maryland before they take on UCLA, the midseason Big Ten games. There's opportunities for them to right the ship. I think that there's been a lot of takes on how far behind the 8 ball they are with the two, probably quad 3 at best, quad 2 losses that they took in Asheville, but plenty of time left. A lot of big games for Maryland to play. So if they can continue to correct things, get the momentum going in the right direction, I still think this team has a tremendous upside, like was reported, inside the black and gold. Basically, any Maryland outlet plus the national outlets said, it's a young team. They have to find their way, but ultimately, those little things they do get you in close games.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I think this Maryland team that we're seeing now, I think we should see drastic improvements between now and Jan 1, for example. I think that the problem for now for Maryland is come tournament time and how that resume is going to look, how they're going to be able to kind of build and kind of maybe mask some of the non-conference or the lack of non-conference success. Granted, they still have that UCLA matchup, but again, I just think, like you said, just kind of building that positive energy and momentum going into that December 1st game at Indiana.
Yeah, let's flip it over to football. Terps will take the trip up 95 to New Jersey to take on Rutgers. Both teams come into the game at 6-5. Ahmed, uh, Greg Schiano's got it rolling up in Piscataway. His team going to a bowl for the first time since 2014, and a bunch of firsts that can be accomplished for Michael Oxley's squad this weekend.
Yeah, big game this weekend. Obviously, Maryland goes in as a very slight favorite, but a chance for Maryland to pick up their 7th win for the 3rd straight season, which would be the first time since 01-03. A chance to beat Rutgers for the 4th time in 5 games, and a chance to win the most road games since 2014, and finish with a plus 500 road record this year.
Yeah, that is an accomplishment. Loxley talks about it, and it's definitely true how hard it is to win on the road. I think we've seen examples of competing on the road this year, not coming through with it, but definitely a step in the right direction. Rutgers this year, fast start, but similar to Maryland a few years back, they've really bottomed out over the past couple of weeks, and that was capped with a really not competitive 27-6 loss in Happy Valley, where this offense again stalled like they did the week before, where they were blanked by Iowa.
Yeah, again, these last 3 weeks, they played Ohio State the week before that, and the competition very similar to Maryland, where it just has not been very easy for Rutgers. But again, hats it to Greg Schiano. It's a bowl eligible team for the first time in 10 or 9 years, 9 seasons for Rutgers. So I think that's an accomplishment in itself. But feels very similar, especially kind of on offense, for Maryland's defense, what they need to do to stop Rutgers is going to be very similar to how you kind of limit Michigan, which will be on the ground. But definitely a very winnable game this weekend. I think Maryland kind of still does match up well. It's going to be, how does Maryland kind of respond coming after a tough bounce back, but ultimate letdown game against Michigan.
Yeah, and addressing that point, I feel like last week I talked about what my message would be is to embrace the opportunity, and I would continue that going to this week. Again, last time a lot of these guys are going to get to play college football
Yeah.
in conference against an opponent they've seen year over year. You don't want to go out the wrong way. I would almost point to really some of the fan reaction saying, this game means a lot. It means a lot to end it up with a winning record. I think there's a lot to sell when it comes to that, and you don't want to go out on two losses in a game you didn't show up in. For a guy like Talia, Jay Sean Jones, same list of players
Yeah.
that I went through last week. You don't want to go out with your last regular season college game because these it's no nothing is hidden away from how bowl season has become a joke for people that really love college football and people that love sports betting. There really isn't much to those games. These guys know that. They know that those games are a reward and they're a gift to get to play in. So this was really the last one that truly means something in that fashion. Rutgers certainly is going to want to get back in that win column. So Maryland doesn't bring it. A guy like Kyle Monungai and an offense like Rutgers and a defensive team like what Greg Schiano has is the perfect opponent just to road grade you, eat up the clock, play super hard on defense, force a couple of turnovers, and kind of break it open for an offense that's got to be extremely frustrated with the way the last couple of weeks have had. Pretty much similar story to Maryland, as you said, Ahmed. They were leading that Ohio State game into the third quarter, and then the wheels fell off the bus, and they've just never really come back set. They were in that game at Iowa late into the fourth quarter, and the wheels came off the bus again. And last week was just a ugly performance for Rutgers.
Yeah, it just feels like this Rutgers offense. I mean, again, feels like the reason why I feel like what Maryland needs to do to limit Rutgers is very similar to what Maryland needs to do or needed to do to limit Michigan. Is I think it's a little bit more evident this week, but you got to stop the run and you got to be able to bring down Monungai at the first point of contact. And I think if you're able to do that, beat Gavin, get Wimsatt beat you in the pocket. I think that's kind of the recipe for success for Maryland. And like you said, I think that the Rutgers offense just kind of doesn't have that firepower yet. But what they do well is keeping Gavin Wimsatt upright. They actually lead the Big Ten, allowing just 12 sacks this year. So it'll be interesting to see how Maryland's able to kind of disrupt Rutgers on offense and how they're going to able to make them one dimensional there. But I think again, Maryland did a good job of wrapping up Corum last week. I think in the Michigan Maryland game last year, you saw a lot of missed tackles or Corum really being able to break out, and that was when they were able to kind of find that success there. So I thought Maryland did a better job of that last weekend, just better tackling, and Loxley even noted that in the press conference this week. So I think if Maryland's able to do that again, be able to put a complete performance, I think Maryland's offense should be able to do enough.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, it boils down to being able to do the same things right, even when the result didn't go your way. I'm sure that's something that Ryan Davis and Mike Loxley are really focused on getting that message out to their guys. And then the tackling from a guy like Bo Braid, year over year, he talked about it after the game on Saturday, his, ability to kind of focus in and do the right things and play his best game. I'll skim over the comment that was the most famous from him from this weekend. Ruben Hippolyte, the same thing, goes for him in the game. Just being able to keep your head into the game. Obviously, Jay Sean Barham really flashed kind of the main point of the season. That was much more like the guy that we expected to see with snap count wise and playing like that. And just overall strong performance. But it comes down to, Tommy A, Jordan Phillips, Quashawn Fuller, and Ty J Johnson being able to hold their own in this game, being able to have their heads in the game and being able to play to their ability, which is again goes down to coaching, goes down to the message from that staff. If they can get those guys to play, ultimately you're going to see a team that loves to run the ball. Just for reference, Talia has thrown 166 more passes than Will Smith that has this year. So that just shows you how much Rutgers loves to run the ball. On average, on a great day, if you talk to like Mike Loxley, he's saying on a great day, we get 85 plays in. So 166
Yeah.
more attempts over a season. It just shows you how much this Rutgers team really is limited through the air and just loves to run the ball.
Yeah, and you kind of expected Rutgers. You thought at least when Gavin Wimsatt joined the program, you thought that he was kind of the quarterback, and the guy that was going to be able to turn it around, and you kind of expected a little bit more, just verticality or balance on that offense. But again, that's why it feels like if Maryland's kind of able that front, very similar, maybe to Nebraska, if you're able to kind of limit what they can do on the run, limit the chunk plays, and just take advantage through the air. Obviously, I think that's for Maryland, how they're able to pull out that win. So I think again, if Maryland defense is able to kind of play the way that they've been capable of, really through conference play, um, will throw the Penn State away. But outside of that, I think this Maryland defense has kind of been able to live up to the billing and done well making adjustments through conference play as well. So again, I think this Maryland defense has a chance to hold Rutgers under 20 points this weekend.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. If they play to your ability, I think last week and even going back to the Ohio State game, really Penn State being the outlier shows what this team is capable of when they do the right things, when they make the plays, when they're there to be made. For the Terps offense, that's what this weekend's going to be about as well. They play against a very, very solid scoring defense with Rutgers and total defense yards allowed wise, all of that in the top 10 in the conference. The only thing that the Scarlet Knights have struggled with, and it's something that I've heard Greg Schiano say, is they haven't forced many turnovers this year. They don't necessarily make huge plays in terms of sacking the quarterback, tackles for loss, all that stuff. But overall, Ahmed, a super, super solid group that's much improved again year over year, and that has this team really is the reason why this team will be going to a bowl game.
Yeah, Loxley talked about it earlier this week. It feels like Rutgers does a lot of or a couple things, really really well, and they have a couple pieces there in that front seven. Obviously, Deion Jennings, who leads the team with 84 tackles, Wesley Bailey and Lewis there with 3 sacks each. But like you said, Rutgers doesn't really do a good job of getting to the backfield. So I think again, when you look at Maryland's offensive line, who has definitely had their moments. Obviously, the strip sack fumble that Talia had last week. You can criticize Talia for having one hand on the ball, but you can also note that he didn't really have much of a chance. So I don't think that Maryland's offensive line is going to go against a Rutgers front that really is comparable to Michigan's defense, or yeah, comparable to Michigan's defensive line there. So I think Maryland's offensive line has a better chance of keeping Talia upright. Talia, I think, has kind of shown that he's able to kind of find the deep plays. Obviously, Caden Prather has been on full display, whether it's the Ohio State, Nebraska game last week with that 34-yard catch along the sideline as well. So I think Maryland has some of those weapons there where Talia, if he just stays smart, takes care of the football like we've seen him do at times. I think that's why Maryland should be able to put up a couple touchdowns on Saturday.
Yeah, Roman Hemby, if he can average 3 yards a carry, and the top three guys in targets are Caden Prather, Jay Sean Jones, and Corey Dyches. I feel like I say the same thing on repeat. You just change the team names around when it comes to Maryland's offense. The Terps ultimately will be able to win this game. I would love if they're going to target Ty Felton a lot. I would love to see him kind of in the short hitch game, the crossers under, which are in Maryland's offense. You just don't see those passes much. He's just has so much speed. Him and Octavian Smith. If you're going to try and find ways to get him the ball, they're not vertical deep threats unless they're over the middle where they can beat guys in a foot race. I would love to see, Octavian get a little bit more involved. Ty Felton get some more touches where he can make something happen, or just straight on, 9 routes for him. I would not let that play with Sammer still and Ty Felton on the sideline that was intercepted deter Mike Loxley, Josh Gaddis, and Kevin Someone from throwing passes like that. Obviously, you want that to be your guy gets it or nobody gets it, and I'm still salty about it. You can't put two hands on the receiver while the ball's in the air, then jump up and intercept it while he's on the sideline looking back at the ref. You really can't let those things happen. But ultimately, I would love to see Dyche just really have a big game, get in the end zone a couple times, and of course, Jay Sean and Prather really get the targets that they deserve. If there's going to be a guy with double-digit targets, I would love that to be Jay Sean Jones,
Yeah.
and just go out with a bang. Just the way you started it in College Park.
Yeah, I think right. You hit the nail right on the head there. I mean, it's going to be weird. I mean, I was talking with a couple other beat reporters. It's going to be weird thinking about a Talia team without, or Maryland team without Talia. But I think it's also going to be maybe equally as weird to not think of Jashawn Jones playing at Maryland. So I think chance for him in his last game, likely last game, in a Maryland uniform, for him to really blow up and kind of make those big plays that we've become accustomed to over the last couple of years, whether it's across the middle or downfield. So I think again, it just feels like this Rutgers secondary. If you really match them up against Maryland skill players, Maryland it can outmatch them. And again, if Talia is able to take care of the football, and then the protection kind of holds up like we've seen it. Like frankly, this offensive line, I think that going into it, even though Kyle Long and Amelia Moran, they've kind of rotated in. Eric Harris, Mike Purcell, they've kind of alternated between starting center there, but as a whole, as a unit, feels like they should be able to win a lot of these battles against that Rutgers front seven. So again, Leah's able to take care of the football. But I like Maryland to be able to create some big plays, whether it is on the ground, generate something. Colby McDonald looking efficient as well the last couple of weeks in his very limited opportunities, but I think that the passing attack should be able to carry them once again to what I expect to be a win.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's get down to it. Last week I was 2 for 2. Last week Ahmed took the under. I don't know why, but this one also an interesting one. Terps a 1 point favorite. Ahmed mentioned earlier. Over under at 44.
Yeah, I will say the only reason I went under last week is because Michigan was allowing 7.5 yard points per game, so I felt that there was a chance that we could see a low scoring game, but that's not what I'm expecting this weekend. Like we said, Maryland -1 over under at 44. I think Maryland should obviously cover that, and I expect that over to hit. I think Maryland has a chance to score, 27 plus, 30 plus against this Rutgers defense. Again, you just the only thing that kind of concerns me is what Maryland team does come out. There's a big difference between 7-5 and 6-6. But you just kind of wonder, obviously, I think going into this season, everyone, whether in College Park or who watched the program, watched the team, everyone said that this was the year that Maryland needed to win one of these big ones, and obviously last week was that third and final chance for Maryland to take down one of the Big Ten elites. So you just kind of hope that there is no hangover effect, and again, that gap between 7-5 and 6-6 is noticeable. Both in terms of recruiting and in terms of bowl outlook. So you kind of hope that Maryland is dialed in, but if they are, then I do expect them to come out with the win because I again think they're the better team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said, that line's another one that I would be saying, there is a difference in that. Everybody in that room should know that there's a difference between being a 500 team and being an above a 500 team. And really, when you look in the mirror as a team or as an individual that's been part of this and those missed opportunities, you don't want it to be chalked up to all missed opportunities and it ended with a loss on the road in an environment that I can't imagine is going to be very energetic. This is where that internal energy really makes a difference if you can bring it. That's sort of where it's not a big environment. There's not going to be that many people there. It's about kind of what creates the fire in that locker room, what creates the will to play, the will to win
Yeah.
in that room, really showing through this week. I think Maryland's got that. I think you'll see just that not wanting to be a 6-6 team, not wanting to take a step backwards. There is already, and it's been acknowledged. It was acknowledged in Bo Braid and Ruben Hippolyte's podcast. It was out there just talking about the opportunity and all that stuff. It's been out there from Loxley, definitely in every one of the post game player interviews last week. Just like that feeling of missed opportunity, almost that feeling like the season ended, but it didn't. There's an opponent this week. There's a chance to kind of bring it one last time with your guys and come out with not taking a step backwards. Because I certainly think that the guys that have the bigger view, the guys that are on the field a lot of times and have been for the last 4 years, will see they don't want to go out looking worse than they did last year. They still believe that they are a better team than what was out there last year, and if that really shows and means, then they'll bring it this week because they don't want a worse record than what was on display last year.
Yeah, and I actually was worth bringing up because it was a really good episode. And for any Maryland fans that are listening, you definitely go check out the Bo Braid, Robin Hippolyte, Dante Trader. They kind of talked about just really what the mindset was from Ohio State week on, and you hit the nail right on the head there. You kind of just hope that Maryland's able to take care of business. But I think again, Loxley and the players, they've all kind of said that really the same thing, that this player led culture, that the culture, that the leadership, like that stuff is real. And I mean, really since the 2021 season, like I've been saying this stuff, like the first 2 years were not good, and the last 3 years, looked a lot better. So I think that's kind of where you need to that culture that you built. That's kind of where you needed to shine most this week, because again, For some guys, it could potentially you look at it and it's like,
Mhm.
we're potentially playing for a random bowl game. What more do I have other than get my touches or get my stats or whatnot. So again, I think that's kind of where that culture and the player driven mindset. I think that's where Maryland will need it to loom large. And again, Maryland. That's kind of been the Achilles heel the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I think Maryland's able to rise to the occasion. Um, they easily cover. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I would agree, and one more comment on, like, the culture and all that is, a lot of people will say, like, all those cliches, like, team culture shows when nobody's watching, and they're in the weight room in the middle of the summer, and it's hot out, and, you're really trying to push yourself to even be there, to get up, to go to the workout, all that stuff. For this team, where this program is, we're not at really that point yet. Like, yes, that matters. I'm not discounting that time in the need for that to be a competitive team. Right now, as somebody that's watched the team, I'm looking for them to really show up after a tough loss like that last week, and you know play to their ability, show everybody what they can do, because this game really, talent wise, and I feel like we both said this, talent wise, Maryland's ahead of Rutgers as a program. Maryland should win this game, just guy for guy, skill player for skill player, up
Yeah.
front offensive line against their defensive line. I don't really know, the true evaluation of Maryland's offensive line is not very good for the season. It's gotten better as time's gone on, but that might be the only spot, in my opinion, where their guys might be better than ours come Saturday. But you would love to see them just really come out and show everybody, what they've been saying is true, and it didn't happen in Illinois against Illinois. It didn't happen against Northwestern, but look, there's an opportunity on Saturday for it to happen again. Big loss last week. Didn't really show up, didn't really get it together. But like Nebraska, I said that was a big culture win. Same thing goes for this week. Same thing goes for that. I've got the Terps if I had to throw a score on it. I think Maryland is able to move the ball against this Rutgers defense. I got it like Terps 31-14, 31-17, somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
I was right in my head thinking 30-13, so I like that. Yeah, again, yeah, I think this should be good, but again, like we touched on, win would also alter our bowl projections. So I think that's especially this time of year, after a Nebraska win, I think that's something Maryland fans are kind of taking a little closer look at. So it'll be interesting to see where they land.
Yeah, on that, I'm hearing, really three at this point for Maryland. I've heard Detroit as a far distant third at this point. Definitely not a spot where Maryland's pushing for. I don't think any Big Ten team's really pushing for Detroit. I don't think
No,
uh, that bowl game it's the last place bowl. I'll put it that way. Middle of the pack where I've heard Maryland is also in Phoenix and Las Vegas. I have not heard much talk from sources about Nashville, about Tampa. I know that those have been reported elsewhere, but those were the three that I heard in the building on Saturday. That was what was out there in Vegas. Definitely, in my opinion, the best bowl out of the three, the best destination out of the three, and the place that I would love to be on December 23rd.
yeah, I'll take Vegas. I'll take Phoenix. Like anywhere warm. Like I don't care who Maryland plays. I'll just say that anywhere warm. Send me somewhere warm. So I will say I've heard Vegas and Phoenix is probably the primary two. Felt like Nashville going into the Penn State week was maybe like a pipe dream or maybe outside shot, but it felt like maybe after that that's kind of when it officially became unrealistic. I will say, I believe it's Action Network. They have Maryland playing like South out. They have some
South
random
Alabama in the
team.
Birmingham Bowl.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, the Birmingham Bowl, and it doesn't. So the Birmingham Bowl is not tied to the Big Ten at all, and it does seem like it would kind of have to take a lot in for that to even like be a possibility. It does seem like Rutgers to Pinstripe, Northwestern to Detroit. That seems like most likely, but we'll see. Nebraska this weekend. That's going to be a big one. And really just the West last week. A lot of this. I think it was what 4 teams that were at 5 wins. So it'll be kind of interesting. Definitely, um, I hate to even bring it up, but if Maryland does lose this weekend, it gets dicey. So a win would be good, but Vegas seems to be the preference or the priority over Phoenix. Just seems to be like a little higher stature. And hey, I've never been to Vegas before, so I'll definitely take that trip.
Yeah, neither have I, and I would 100% will be there if that's where it happens. But plenty of chance to talk about bowl destinations as more information comes out. Obviously, like Ahmed just said, Maryland, they lose this week, they're bottom tier priority. They might end up being the last place Big Ten bowl team in terms of preference, just given that they've been to two of the better or two of their preferred destinations in their last two bowl trips, being Pinstripe and the Mayo Bowl last year. So we'll see where things shake up, but the Terps really need to take care of business this week, and then we'll have some more options get higher on that priority list for the conference.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think the only thing that I was thinking, and it hasn't really been told to me, but I was just thinking, from a Maryland marketing perspective, Talia's last collegiate game, having that
Hmm.
draw, I could potentially maybe see that. And Maryland did decent at traveling last year, so that stuff matters too. So we'll see, but again, win and hopefully it'll be between Vegas and Phoenix there, and get to enjoy some sunshine.
Yeah, we sure will. Ahmed, anything else to add on the pod for this week?
Bring on the yams, man.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody that listens. We're thankful for you guys liking, subscribing, listening to the show here as we've gotten it rolling this football season. Hopefully, the Terps pull out a Thanksgiving weekend win. I will be out at the game on Saturday, so make sure to check out all the content from that. Of course, all your Terps coverage on InsideTheBlackAndGold.net. And as it gets to portal season, it's coming up. Ahmed will have all the scoop up there. And I believe 2024 projected depth chart, first draft coming out this weekend. Did I see that?
Yeah, I was looking a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, we gotta figure out who can come back, and then I was like, I gotta figure out COVID, and so all that stuff. So we'll see. I should have that out Sunday, finalizing it now. So we shall see. It's gonna be a fun next couple months.
All right, everybody, stay safe out there this weekend. Have a great Thanksgiving. As always, like, subscribe to the show wherever you get it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you after Maryland hopefully takes down Rutgers.